Good evening. My name is Carrie B. Dean, and this is another episode of A Dullard Speaking. Tonight, I'm speaking on the topic of Donald Trump wanting to call all the Democrats out for an IQ test. I have to laugh about this. So far, everyone he's challenged to take an IQ test, when they say to him, I will take one if you take one, we never hear any more about IQ tests. I wonder why. I think it's because last time he did that, to just one particular Democrat, she scorched his behind, and he was so embarrassed that he had to come at her a different way. So now what he's doing is he's going to challenge all the Democrats and not just that one particular Democrat. So that way, when he says she's low IQ, he's saying it because she belongs to a group of low IQs. That is his thought process. But what he doesn't understand is he still didn't take her up on the challenge of she'd take the same one he would take. Reason being is the people that are going to be judging this IQ test are all yes men for Trump. So, go figure. Sure. He looks like the smartest man in the world as long as he got yes men that hang on his every word. But by him trying to make it a mandate that all the Democrats have to take an IQ test, sorry, this is a democracy still. The American people are going to want your people to take an IQ test. That's right. Maybe not your ardent followers, that little handful of thousands that hang on your every word. But the rest of America would like to see you take an IQ test. And a real IQ test. Not surrounded by your yes people. Okay? And not just you, all of the Republicans in your house need to take an IQ test, because definitely for them to just be falling all over themselves to say yes to you suggests that maybe we didn't have the brightest people in those positions, okay, as you suggest. So, your first failure, even before the IQ test begins, is the fact that you would challenge people that you don't agree with to an IQ test. Number one, number uno, telltale on yourself. You thought you'd do that and scare people into not accepting the challenge and expecting you to be a part of the challenge. Ooh, yeah. You didn't see that coming. You thought you had them bullied because nobody's going to believe you need to take an IQ test. Oh, no. We, the American people, want you to take an IQ test. Because the information that you're pumping out about tariffs is scary. First of all, you said tariffs weren't attacks on the American people. Lie. Um, and it may not be a lie by deceit. It may be a lie because you truly don't understand what tariffs do and who pays them. And that's something that everyone else isn't looking at because they got you. See, you think you're manipulating the richie riches, but the richie riches are manipulating you. They got you to be the front man on a big lie that other countries pay the tariffs. No, they do not pay the tariffs. What happens to other countries when you put such large percentages against their GDPs, which most of those countries' GDPs are a lot smaller than America's, or should I say were, because you've destroyed that now too, with your tariff. So if you put, say, in the smallest part of countries across Africa, if you put 10% tariffs against them, well, that means the companies here in America that purchase from those countries are going to purchase less, and we're not set up to manufacture the little sundry item products that they send to the US that we purchase, like pots and pans and little household item things and knickknacks and this and that and the others. Here in America, we do not produce those items in a huge volume anymore. We've been relying on China to produce those, manufacture and produce those products for us. So when you put 10% exportation tax in conjunction with the importation tax, American companies, the manufacturers in America that aren't true manufacturers, first of all, they're getting hit with having to pay those tariff tolls. So instead of them just on import tax alone, instead of them paying just the import tax, well, now they gotta pay for the export tax as well. So anything that they're going to export back to those countries, they have to pay the taxes on as well. So on the other country's side, they're not going to eat the cost of the export tax, because the American companies, because of the import tax, are not going to keep eating the cost of that huge sum at the rate of import buys that they were doing. They're going to buy less. And when they buy less, that eats into the other country's GDP. And when they buy less, it also drives up the price of items sold on the shelf. So, when you drive up the price, I mean, they've been suppressing it for as long as they can, but they can't keep suppressing all that cost that's on them to keep things supplied, even at smaller amounts, to keep up with the deficit that is now at 38 trillion. That's a lot of money to try to keep up with off the backs of companies that were already starting to hang by a thread because of the price increases that happened during the pandemic. That's right. You know, oh, Joe Biden didn't do nothing about the inflation. What could Joe Biden do about the inflation? He first had to get the country back to a stable point. By reversing a lot of the tariffs you put out there that ruined the economy in the first place before he came into office. So everybody can keep pointing at Joe Biden and what he didn't do and what he didn't do and what he didn't do and how come he didn't take well, the same Congress that you stepped into was there when he was trying to remove a lot of those tariffs. They wouldn't let him absolutely remove them, so he put them down to the lowest percentage that he could so we could eke by. And thank God that he did lower those tariffs, because it helped us to eke by. And just as our economy had started to pick up wind again, being stronger than it ever has been in the market, oh, here comes loudmouth Donald Trump. Oh no, the economy isn't good. The economy isn't good at all. Look at the inflation. Inflation. I'll take care of the inflation on day one. I'll take care of the Russia-Ukraine war day one. Oh, I'll do all these wonderful things day one. The only promise that you did keep was to be a dictator. Oh, go figure. um, so, yes, we need to have a true IQ test on you just about tariffs. You're already defeated because we're seeing your idea about tariffs real time. So you're already defeated. But yeah, we just like to ask you some simple questions of how tariffs work just to see if you know how they work. I'm pretty sure your whole team would get with you and have you memorize some lines. But if word got out to the American people that you know what you're doing in wrecking our economy for the sake of the richy richest getting rich, you know what would have happened to you. You'd be beheaded. So this is one American telling you, stop with the gaslighting. Just come clean. Tell the truth. You know what you were doing. You've got that accomplished as far as the richy rich is getting richer and the rest of us having to pay the tax. You keep saying no tax, no tax. Well, until you get rid of the IRS, which you're not about to do, then there's going to be tax. You keep saying no tax on Social Security. Well, yes, there is. Because what you did was the portion of Social Security you haven't dismantled is you put certain restrictions in place that would force even people on Social Security to pay for their health care. That's what you did. Now, if you're taking out of the Social Security, which I had already paid into to have Medicaid, and now you're telling me I got to pay even more to have Medicaid. How's that not a tax on me? Crazy, isn't it? Um, and that isn't happening to everybody on Social Security. No, anybody that's on Social Security that had a bank account of, always has a bank account, I should say, even in bad times, of 100K or 500K or more. They're going to be fine because you won't be taking money away from their Medicaid. So let's be fair. Let's say from about 400K up, you won't be taking money out of their Social Security checks to pay for Medicaid. But anybody below 400K, yeah, you're going to be taking money out of their pockets to pay for Medicaid. So don't say there's no tax, because no tax means nobody's paying taxes for Social Security. You're still taking Social Security and Medicaid off of people's paychecks. So don't say no more taxes on Social Security. Stop with the lies. That's all I'm saying. Stop with the lies. Turn around. And try to say it's no tax because it's at the state level that they collect a tax for those two items. Well, guess what? That means the state don't have to turn that over to the feds anymore. That means the states can decide to keep that money, to keep their Medicare and Medicaid systems running. And when the states don't turn that money over to the federal government, that means you can't steal it to put it against the GDP. Oh, wow. Didn't think about that. Oh, and all those people that you just deported. Oh, you didn't think about that. Yeah. Americans stopped spending, or they've slowed on spending. You keep wagging that the 5,000 that's now dwindled down to maybe $1,500. Now it's down to $1,300, and by the time you finally send checks out, it'll be down to about $600 or $500. Guess what? Any ignorant people out in America right now, I'm speaking to all the ignorant people that'll get that little bonus whenever you send out and be happy with it. If you spend that money towards Christmas toys and presents for your kids and all this other stuff and think that it was great he finally came through just before Christmas, you just kissed the rosiest part of his rump. It's basically all you did, because that's what he's trying to do, is get you to spend. Because when poor people spend money above their means, it's how the GDP grows. That's what inflation is. They up the prices on everything. Knowing that you're going to be pressured to have to spend. This is the part of the year where everybody's in the Christmas spirit and don't want to spend the money, but no, they have to spend. And Trump knows this. So all those people that keep hoping every time you hear a little piece of news or he does another press release of when he's going to release the money, that has now, remember, it was supposed to be $5,000. Now it's dwindled down to, I think the last I saw was just about 13 and a half or 13,600 dollars. Come on, it doesn't get get better than that. He's going to keep promising and promising. He might send out another $1,200 like he did the last time, just before Christmas. So everybody can be happy. He might do 1,400. Who knows? He wanted to give us more, but he just couldn't do it yet. They looked at the numbers and he just couldn't do it. No, you just couldn't do it because you don't want to. Not because you don't have it, but because you don't want to, because you need to hang on to it, because the GDP is hurting. And if we can't grow the GDP, by at least another 3 or 4 percentage points, the deficit just grows. And guess what? Other countries know this. That's why they're selling U.S. bonds right now. No, they're not buying, they're selling. I haven't heard of anyone yet buying any more U.S. bonds. And we won't hear about that. Because that's not pleasant news, and you only want to give happy news. Because if the rich guys actually heard and knew what was going on, a lot of them will start pulling donations to the Republican Party when they realize that, oh shit, he just put us in free-for-all when the market starts to crash again. That's right. And I'm just hoping the crash doesn't happen like it did in 2018, just before the Christmas season. Oh, yeah. Just before the Christmas season 2018, a whole lot of people got fired from a lot of different companies. Why? Because Trumpsy wanted to play with tariffs against China. And in 2019, he pulled back on those 15%, 20% tariffs that he was trying to put out there against China. He came all the way down to, what was it? I believe it was like 15% in the end that he was able to work out a deal with China. But guess what? When he did that, China stopped buying American sold cars. Yeah, and it started to crash the economy a bit there. Hino went out of business. My brother was working at Hino at the time, and when they went out of business, that particular manufacturing site that was on American shores that we lost, that manufacturer, when they closed down, guess how many people were out of work, especially where it was located in one of the major hiring companies for the whole area. That's right, it was located in Arkansas. That's right. In a central location in Arkansas that was helping a lot of those poor folks and poor farmers that needed work during the months of seasonal growth. Yeah. I'm not sure, but I think I read where it was close to somewhere like somewhere in between 45 or 48,000 to 60 some thousand people. Might have even been 80 something. I don't know. I can't remember. But lost jobs just overnight. No jobs. No freaking jobs. Because that particular manufacturer ran 3 shifts. And there was anywhere from 20 to 30,000 people working each of those shifts. So just think about that. Poof, all those people gone. Just poof, no jobs. That was during his first term. Now think about all the manufacturers and stuff that are going out of business now. Car dealerships, you name it, all going out of business. How many people did each of those companies employ? Yeah. As a matter of fact, as he was taking his oath in office, a little bit before the election was announced that he had won, the steel mill, and about 2 months after he had been inaugurated, IP did its swan dive and said that they were closing for good. So I'm here in Georgetown, South Carolina, where those 2 places were located, and we lost the steel mill and we lost the paper mill. Well, guess what that did to the economy around here? Uh-huh. Guess how many people lost their jobs? Between those 2 companies, how many people were employed? Uh-huh. Lots of people unemployed, having to try to find jobs elsewhere. And those that didn't lose their jobs because of the shutdown, a lot of them have been already let go as non-essential staffing. as they were reducing their costs. Imagine, just at the mention of the words he was going to implement tariffs, a town that relied on work from those two companies shut down. Wow, that's scary. I mean, food chain stores shutting down all over the country. When I say shut down, I mean shut down, boarded up. The corporations that own the chains already and received their insurance money back in their pockets because they had multiple chains all across the U.S. So most of the stores that they shut down were the stores in the poorest sections across America, where the people barely make enough money to buy anything. At the grocery stores, and a part of their diet depended on having a little local burger joint or something like that that they could just run to in a pinch to feed their kids. Now they're stuck having to pay those high prices at the grocery stores. Well, because they're paying those high prices at the grocery stores, guess what? Other chain stores started to lose their business. Yeah. Started hurting the Burger Kings and the McDonald's. Ouch. Remember when you couldn't go to a neighborhood without seeing a McDonald's on every other corner? Sort of like Starbucks. Remember that? When Starbucks went bust? I mean, back in 2008, I was in some very diverse places of Arkansas driving through, and I'd go past at least 3 or 4 different Starbucks. And I was like, what the hell? When did Starbucks start taking over the world? I went back there in 2024, early 2024, to the state of Arkansas to visit my parents, and several places were boarded up. That shocked me. Um, what's that Chick-fil-A place that had just opened up, and 2009 or 2010, down there in Arkansas was all boarded up, closed up, moved on. There was a the steakhouse place. I can't think of the. It wasn't a Ruth Chris. I'm thinking of the other one. I can't think of the name of the eatery, but anyway, it was closed down. It looked like tumbleweeds blowing through. And I said, wait a minute, this place was starting to thrive when I left here, and now it's like ghost town. Um, I mean, it was just ridiculous. When I got here to South Carolina, same difference. And then we started to get newer businesses to move in. Now they're starting to close down again. Um, New businesses definitely weren't going to make it in the market that Trump has changed it into. Bear markets closed down a lot of businesses that can no longer feed into that GDP. And the American people don't want to pay that much more money because a lot of people haven't had a raise in 2 or 3 years. And with Trump getting rid of all the oversight departments and everything else, it may be another 10 years before they see another raise. And believe me, on the money that they're making, no in hell they can afford to carry the burden of the GDP alone. So once those companies that were threatening to leave the U.S. actually start moving their manufacturing to other places cheaper than U.S. soil, so that they can move products again, guess what, Trump? Total implosion. Because it doesn't take a genius to tell you, when you hurt the very people that are supporting your fat asses on Capitol Hill, when you do things to damage them, an uprising will happen. You thought you had an insurrection? And you pardon all those people? You haven't seen an insurrection when you see the pitchforks that'll be coming for you. And not because you called for it to happen. I'm hoping you wake up and see how much damage you've done to the economy. But you don't care. You had other purposes for the land. You cut all the funding to keep our energy prices down and comfortable. You repealed bills that would help make us a greener energy country, and you want to build factories on the U.S. soil that won't be regulated by EPA standards. fine. Go right ahead. But when you choke off the very people that have been carrying the U.S. GDP on their backs, the deficit, total deficit on their backs, when you totally devastate them the way you are doing, you're going to find your Richie Rich pals aren't going to dig in their pockets to pull you out. They're going to bail. They know they got enough money. They can go to some other country and live it up and still keep making money without being on U.S. soil. So they're all laughing at you. You think you got them, but you don't have them. Not truly. And true friends don't let other friends burn. Right now, they're all trying to buy their own ways into heaven. Well, I give money to this cause, and I give money to that cause, and I give money to that. But do you ever go and fly to those areas that you gave money to the cause to see where that money went to and what was done with that money? No, not really. You wonder why people hate Americans? It's not so much they hate Americans. They hate what the American people stand for. Pure and simple. So, what does Trumpy do about that? Nothing. Because he's winning. So, yeah, I definitely agree with you, Trump. We should have IQ tests for everybody in Congress, yourself included right now. Because no one in Congress right now seems to truly understand the depths of which we, the American people, are disappointed in government, period. Whether it be Democratic or Republican. Oh, yeah. You know, everybody, the Democrats and the Democrats and the Democrats. Democrats, my ass. The Republican president that freed the slaves really didn't want to free the slaves. But he felt the pressure upon him to do so. To keep the South from succeeding from the North. So, you see the tragedy in how he was assassinated. Yeah. Because I guarantee you, the rich Democrats wasn't happy about it. And definitely the rich Republicans were not happy about it. As far as him freeing freeing the slaves. But here's where the thing flips. See, the Republicans keep saying, but we're the party that freed the black people. Why are the black people behind us? We're the party that freed. Yeah, you freed us to help your behinds get out of financial trouble. That's right. By the Southern, which is now called Confederate States, by the Confederate States succeeding from the Union States, because most of the northern states had already unionized. The southern states were being ran over as the rich Republicans from the north were coming down, buying up their properties and their land to build the railroads and things going through. That the highways for the coaches and things, making progress, coming in and trying to pressure more of the poor farmers of the South to give up their lands for housing projects. All sorts of things going on, fun. So the rich Southerners got together and said, screw this. It ain't happening no more. Y'all unionize, y'all stay where you're at, and we'll stay down here, and we'll keep our riches, and we'll keep our slave trade going just the way we want it to. And you see, what really got to them was the fact that most of the slaves were being imported not through New York, but through Charleston. That's right. South Carolina became the hot spot for slaves on the slave trade. Northerners didn't want to get their hands dirty with saying that they owned slaves, so what they would do is pay for Southern gentlemen to buy the slaves for them and bring them to them. And they said they treated them better up north because they'd give them a little stipend to own a little piece of property somewhere of their own. Or they had set up facilities for them to live elsewhere, just like they did in the South. The only difference between the North and the South is the North's treatment of the slaves was more psychological than physical. Every now and then you hear about a guy going to 8-Mall doo-doo and beating up the slaves. But that person got handled because, hey, That's merchandise. Once we get done using them here, we don't like them anymore, we send them back and ship them back down south and let them work the fields. See, down south, they didn't care whether you worked the house or worked the fields. If you're working the house and you did something that they didn't like, they'd throw you out to the fields and grab another slave to come work in the house that had been working out in the fields and knew better than to sass back at the house master. Yeah. So you don't hear about all of that stuff. So I mean, basically there was no difference other than how the slaves was treated. But as far as how they all thought about the slaves was pretty much the same thing. They're uneducated savages. And that was the viewpoint, period. Point blank, whether it's Democrat or Republican. That was the viewpoint. But the truly good people, that although they had them as free, cheap labor, some of them decided that, wait a minute, these people are human beings. They got babies. We're going to need more slaves because we ain't beat half of these people to death. So we need to stop beating so much. Hey, we're going to need to have their babies grow up and not fierce to the point that they become feral and don't want to be nowhere near us. So we need to start training them on how to service us and how we want to have service. So they treated them with a little bit more dignity. But there was still that little psychological thing that I'm better than you because I speak English. As the slaves started to learn the English tongue, now they're afraid of them because, wait a minute, these savages have learned our language. The same thing they did with the Indians. These savages have learned our language. Yes. Because they're not cattle, they're not cows, they're humans. And humans evolve. That is the problem with slavery. If it wasn't the problem with slavery, America would not exist. So I just think that the hardcore haters in our country need to remember where all that hate comes from. trying to whitewash it or sane wash it or however you want to put it isn't going to work. Hate is hate. And if that's what's in your heart, this country's always going to be in crash mode or in danger of crash mode. Until you realize it took all of us to build a civilization, the world is in forever crash mode. Look at Russia. Russia would rather kill all its surrounding countrymen to own their lands than to realize for every man, woman, and child that you beat, torture, and kill, that's one less person that may not be there to help your economy once you've depleted all the resources. Yeah, see, Rome thought the same thing. Went around, they crushed Greece, they crushed all the little cities around leading up to Italy, and went, oh, what happens now? The people are so poor and hungry, they're revolting. Oh, well, we have this huge, vast army, but wait a minute. We did them so dirty, they don't want to help us anymore. And as Rome burned, there was Nero playing this lute. What else could he do? I guess he found his own happiness in the world. I think that about wraps it up for me here. Wow. Yes, I've been rambling for a long time, but that is my idea. Is if Trump wants an IQ war, he shouldn't have started that, because now you're going to have more than half of America wanting you to take an IQ test, for real IQ tests. Just warning. On that note, good night, or good morning, rather, wherever you're at in the world, and please, let's all try to have a pleasant tomorrow.